ChatGPT is all the rage right now, and in this video, I'm going to show you 5 ways to write your novel the right way with ChatGPT and still keep your artistic integrity. Before we get started, my name is Brenden Pugh. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new video. Here we go. Before we get into the list, I just want to talk very briefly about how I like to view using things like ChatGPT. I don't believe in using ChatGPT or AI to completely write your novel. I think while I don't have necessarily any judgment about that, my thought process is that if you're using ChatGPT to write your novel, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of you personally becoming a writer? And so that's where, for me, I think there's a place for it. There's tools that should be used and can be used with ChatGPT and AI software. I think we should be using them because I think it can help us and enhance our creativity. But that's where it stops for me. So in these tips, we're going to be talking about how can you use ChatGPT to write better stories and become a better writer. Number 1 is grammar and spell check. Now, this is a pretty low-hanging fruit one, but I feel like I have to mention it because before we would have, grammar and spell check maybe built into Word or something like that, and it worked fine, but now we're on a whole new level. So if you've used something like Grammarly, it's a totally software that can help you rewrite sentences and look at things. I kind of shy away from the rewriting sentences, but it can definitely check all your punctuation, check your spelling, and we're on a whole new level. And so this is kind of the base way of especially for people indie authors who might not be able to afford all of the parts of the editing process, and they want to save their money maybe just for a story editor or that final kind of line proofing. For this initial edit, they can use things like Grammarly or ChatGPT to help them with the basics of punctuation and grammar and spelling and all those kinds of things. Number 2 is learning. Now, this one is a little bit interesting, and I think it's a really great use case. When I first started writing, I struggled with things like showing versus telling and passive voice versus active voice, and just those types of things that are sometimes hard to conceptualize, especially when you're first starting out. And you'd find I'd find videos or I'd read books that would talk about it, but it was still sometimes hard to apply because I didn't necessarily have anyone to actually show me what the difference looked like with my own writing. And so, again, making sure that you don't use the ChatGPT to write your story, I think it's a great way to learn to take a sentence or take a paragraph of something you've written, or you can write something new so it doesn't have to come out of a book that you're currently working on or something like that. Put it into ChatGPT and give it those prompts of is this passive or active voice? If it is passive voice, how do I change it into active voice? Show me the differences. Show me the different ways I could write it in active voice. Those kind of things or show versus tell or whatever, thing you're looking for. If you're trying to, how do I make it so that my characters, this emotion of this character shows through more? Show me the differences in them. I think that's a great use case for learning and for being able to actually see the differences as it applies to your own writing. Again, that was something that I would read about and I'd watch videos and I'd try to figure it out. But then when I went to my own writing, it was hard to apply it because I couldn't always visualize and conceptualize what was supposed to happen. So this is a great way to get that side-by-side comparison with your own writing of this is what I wrote, show me the version that I'm looking for, and then have it also explain to you the difference in what it changed. It can be really cool writing teacher if you use it in that way. The next one is summarizing and outlining. Now, I don't mean having it write your outline or create a summary or anything. What I'm talking about of its own accord, what I'm talking about is if you've written a draft, if you've written a few different scenes, using ChatGPT to give you those summaries and even create an outline. I think this is particularly useful for people who are pantsers or like to just kind of discovery write and not start with an outline. After you've finished a draft, taking your manuscript and then using ChatGPT to help you create a structured outline, I think is invaluable. It's not using ChatGPT to create anything. You're simply using ChatGPT to do this task for you, and it will save you a ton of time. I've used it a lot for after I write a chapter or a scene, and I do have a lot of my writing right now in Scrivener, and so it has the note card view, which I really, really like. I've been using ChatGPT to take my chapters and summarize them so I can put it on that note card. So when I'm working on story elements, I have a very quick way to get a summary and not have to spend a lot of time rereading it, writing my own summary. I think this is a really great way. And again, using it to help you write that outline, especially if you started without one, or if you did start with one, using it to help you refine your outline and update your outline based on your actual writing. This one to me is a huge time saver. And again, it does not violate that rule of creating for you. It's simply taking what you created and helping you structure it so that you have a comprehensive outline and it didn't take you, an extra whole couple of weeks to do that. The next one is kind of similar to that, but it's a slightly different use case, and that is tracking character arcs. One of the things for me, especially because the series I'm working on is probably going to end up being fairly long, it can be really tough to track those character arcs across a bunch of different books and projects and making sure that they line up, making sure that the certain moments hit when they need to. And so again, using it to help you with that summarizing and outlining, but as it pertains to specific characters, and then helping you track those character changes across multiple projects. Then when you get into a new project, so say you've written a couple of books and you have this character and you have it build you this outline of this character, and as you're building the next story for that character, this can be a great way to make sure that you're not missing the details, make sure you're connecting the things you want to connect from book to book or novella to novella or whatever it is. Tracking your character arcs via this is a great way to do things, as well as tracking. You can use it to track character arcs between characters and how they interact and making sure you have all those details in place. Again, it's a similar thing to the summarizing and outlining of the whole, but very specific to use cases with characters. And finally, the last one, which this one I've already talked about on the channel before, and I have a video about it. You can definitely check that out, and I encourage you to do so on how to actually build this, but using ChatGPT as a total research assistant for your story. Briefly, I'll describe what I did, but I won't go into totally how I built it because I have another video on that. You can check that out later. Essentially, using a custom ChatGPT that is disconnected from the internet, you can turn off the internet search function. I give it very specific rules and things it has to follow about not creating anything, not giving me ideas, not adding anything to the story, but giving that custom ChatGPT your outlines, manuscripts, your character sheets, all of the documents and everything about your story, and then using it as a total research assistant to basically ask about the world and ask about the story. So as you're working on new prose, as you're working on new projects, instead of having to rifle through everything that you've ever written and find the different things you want, even if it's super organized, I think this is a great way to what did this character do in chapter 1 of this book? And then having it just give you a very quick, this is what that character did, and this is how it affected them. Again, it's not creating anything. It's simply just a research assistant that is giving you and pulling the information out faster than you would be able to do it yourself. This to me also ties into numbers 3 and 4, outlining and character arcs. This is kind of the broader scope of making sure that you are connecting things and knowing the information of your story and not losing anything because you have so much text and notes and documents that you are unable yourself to get through it. AI and ChatGPT is really great at those, just combing the information in huge data sets. And so using it in that way, especially if you have a very long series, I think is great. If you want to learn more about how to do the research assistant side and a little bit more of what I'm talking about here with ChatGPT, make sure to check out this video.